Welcome, paranormal enthusiasts, to this week's episode of Creepin It Reel, here on the Coast to Coast Entertainment Network, where everyone comes for their paranormal fix. Real people, real stories, in real time. So glad you could join us for some ghostly gab. I'm your host, Eleanor Wagner.
Hi, all. As always, I appreciate you hitting the subscribe tab, follow button, or show app on your podcast of choice. Everybody give a hello shout out to our coast to coast techie, Crispy Bacon. He'll be working hard tonight to help us run smoothly. Tonight's guests are part of a team in South Florida called War Party Paranormal that has members from all the way down to Homestead and reaching to West Palm Beach. One of them grew up with paranormal occurrences her whole life, from hearing phantom voices calling her name to feeling someone sitting beside her in bed. She's since discovered she's clairaudient and clairvoyant. Today, she uses her gifts in her investigations and practices the tarot and old school methods to help strengthen her abilities. The other part of this two-person team never experienced anything paranormal until moving in with the other. He heard her tell him over and over about what happened to her, but never took it seriously until something happened to him. The rest is history. They went on to do paranormal investigating together. Join me in welcoming Jen and Armando from 305 Paranormal.
Hi.
Welcome.
Hello, everybody.
Thank
Good
you.
evening.
So that's pretty
That's
cool.
really
What
interesting.
happened to Armando that made you suddenly believe?
So basically what happened is, just listening to this lovely woman sitting right next to me, tell me about her experiences. And, it's one thing hearing about it or maybe seeing your favorite paranormal show on TV, and it's another thing experiencing it. I had
Sure.
my very first paranormal experience. What felt to me as like a super cold, like the best way I can describe it, I at one point in time I was a chef. So I would walk into a walk-in freezer, and that was the best way I can describe it. It was like if I was half inside of that walk-in freezer. Super cold. So not only was I able to sense the presence of cold, but I also heard at that time I was sitting on a futon and I was playing a PlayStation, waiting for Jenny to come home, and I heard the futon springs going down. I heard the
Oh,
going downward, and then so I heard it, I felt it, and then the other sense that I got to experience as well. I looked over and I saw the impression.
oh,
The
okay.
spirit was sitting right next to me. So there it was. I'm sensing it, I'm seeing it, I'm hearing it. Like this is a real thing now.
Did it freak
um
you
so
out?
so this was my thought process right here. Ready?
Oh yeah.
One of two things was going to happen. Either I was going to acknowledge you, or I'm just going to keep playing PlayStation and hope to God that you leave. So I chose the latter. uh so I just kept playing, and I'm like, nothing to see here. If I don't acknowledge it, whatever, maybe it'll go away. And what felt like decades or like years, um finally I heard the spirits move, the springs compressed up again. I didn't see that impression, and I finally started feeling warm again. So I call up Jenny, and I'm like, hey, when are you coming home from work? And she's like, well, this the same time I always come. And then I was like, oh, okay.
See you here.
So yeah, do you want to go shopping or do something or whatever? And then I was like, you know what? Let's go to Walmart. And that should have been like red flag, like, hey, something's going on with him. I hate going to Walmart. I don't know how the Walmart is in your part of the U.S., but ours, it's like a can of sardines. Everybody goes there. You bump into someone, and I just hate it. So that should have been like her first red flag. So she finally comes home, and I don't have to twist her arm to go to Walmart. No. So then we go and we park the car. We go to the store, and then like I see the greeter coming up, and they're like, "Hey,
you haven't
welcome
told
to
her yet? You mean you drove and you didn't even like say anything to her?
No, because I'm gonna tell you my thought process right now.
Yeah.
So the greeter comes up. They're like, "Hey, welcome to Walmart." I'm like, "Shut up! I don't have time to listen to you, babe. You will never like understand what happened to me." So then I pretty much break down exactly what I just told you guys. And then she's like, "Wait, so you dragged me to Walmart just to tell me that story?"
Tell me this.
I hate going to this place. Why else would I be here? And then she blew my mind with the next sentence that she ended up telling me. She's like, "They're always around. Like they can hear you wherever you're at."
Yeah. Yeah.
So there you go. I finally acknowledged it. And it wasn't.
Any idea who it was? Any idea who it might be?
No.
In hindsight, no. That house in particular had a lot of paranormal stuff going on. Like I seen like a hat man, shadow figure there, regular shadow people whispering around, and this is like at all times. That's where he first actually heard what he thought was me calling him, like something mimicking me calling him.
Mm-hmm.
And he hadn't experienced that before either until that location. And I had like really bad, like what I would call psychic attacks, like something like trying to, I don't know, scare me while I was sleeping in my dreams and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, yeah. I've had that happen.
So it that house was pretty, it was pretty brutal.
Yeah.
But we were living there because we were saving up for our wedding at that time, and we had rented a room. That was a friend's house, so we were renting the bottom half of that house at that time.
Yeah, so we had a room and a living room.
Huh?
Now he didn't acknowledge it, but did you ever acknowledge it? Because I found personally that when you acknowledge it, it tends to leave you alone because it's getting what it wants.
The what exactly? Like him calling or me?
Well, he just kept playing with the PlayStation. He didn't acknowledge it.
No, he didn't acknowledge it.
But I'm asking you, have you ever acknowledged the spirits in that house? Because sometimes that helps the situation when you do, because they're getting what they want. They're getting that acknowledgement.
Well, for the hat man shadow figure, I was in bed trying to sleep, and I got woken up by something touching my ankle.
And
he was sleeping. And then I kind of I nudged him. I said, "Hey, I think something touched me." And that's what woke me up. I'm a light sleeper as it is in the first place. And then when I try to go back to sleep, that's when I noticed by the door, it was like really black than what it normally is.
Yeah.
And every time I was like looking at it, I'm like, maybe I'm like not seeing that, or I'm, whatever, like trying to be logical about it. And every time I was like, I'm like, no, it's just the corner, But that was like a weird shaped room. Also, it had like a oblong kind of shape. It's a nice room. And I would see like that void coming in like closer until I kind of started getting like a real sense of dread. And at that point, it was like right on top of me. It was next to me on the bed and right over me, where I pushed him completely off the bed. And he woke up then. But I was like, it's right on top of me. I don't want to curse or anything, but I said a few words on that point. And that's when it left. The other times I seen shadow figures, that was a hat man. And my friend's mom did tell us prior to moving in, or as we were moving in, she was like, "Oh, maybe you'll finally see the hat man guy." And I was like, "Sure," because I thought she was crazy.
Other people, yeah.
Yeah, and for sure enough, I told her when I saw it, I was like, "You got to be kidding me!" And she was like, "Oh, I visited you, huh?" And I was like, "Yeah." Maybe go back to your room. The other ones that I had seen, where I thought would my friend pranking us or pranking me because he would just go to the room. I would stay up late watching TV. And like I thought I would see something like duck around the kitchen counter, the corners, the like the hallways, right where I was sitting at in the living room at that time. And I would get up and look to see like to find my friend and nothing. And then it's just super unsettling at that location.
Oh, bad.
And
How long
we
were
would
you in there?
hear like people
Got out.
upstairs around, and no one was in the house.
We were there for a year, about a little over a year.
Oh God.
And I used to house sit for him. So I used to stay there either way prior to that, but house sitting and living there day to day, I don't know, maybe it just amped it up.
Yeah, because we would stay
Well,
like
you know
for
what
the
it is?
weekend sometimes.
Yeah.
They tend to know if you are somebody who can see or hear them, and they constantly try to get your attention because they know that.
Yeah.
So
I think that's definitely what happened to me at that house.
Sure.
Especially with the whole dreaming. Because I used to ask him all the time. I was like, "You never got no weird dreams or anything like that," and nothing. And I was just having the worst type of dreams I've ever had in my life, and I never had them prior to that, or even after the fact, leaving that house.
Oh, that's terrible.
Yeah, it was
scary.
Pretty traumatic.
So where does the name 305 Paranormal come from?
Well, since 305 is the area code for Miami.
Oh, okay.
We are from Miami, Florida. Yeah. So that's
cool.
Yeah.
It was just a nice tribute to home. I love it here as far as like what 305 means to me. It's the hardworking man. Some people do it legally and some others do it illegally, but they're all hardworking people for the most part. So it was just a cool way to, just have a nice tribute to home.
Love it. And I love your design too on your shirts. They're very cool.
Oh, that one, the glow in the dark.
This one glows in the dark.
That's all Jenny.
Wow,
this
that's
was
cool.
the original.
Yeah, that was my original design. Yeah, I just had to play around with it.
We did New Jersey Spirit Hunters. We used to be called the Lady Ghostbusters, but then I had more men than I had women, and now we have like an equal amount of men and women. So we decided as a team to call ourselves the New Jersey Spirit Hunters. So like you paying homage to New Jersey. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
What is your favorite way of investigating, Jen? Because I know your husband likes to use equipment, certain kinds of equipment. And I think I remember you saying something like you like traditional methods of investigating.
So what I've been doing lately is, especially for a place I've never been to, I don't like to look up the location or I don't want to read about it. I just want to go in there and kind of do like a blind walk.
Sure.
Or see what I get. So trying to tap into that, like with the clairvoyant or a clairaudient there. And I like to use dowsing rods.
Oh, I love dowsing rods too.
Yes, I love dowsing rods.
Dowsing rods.
And I also use a pendulum too. Like pendulum.
Me too. Me too.
I do that for more like my own stuff because I feel like my guy is helping me with a pendulum. But my dowsing rods are like. I always love them. But I do have a favorite piece of equipment, which would be a spirit box.
Yeah,
because I just like, I like to hear them. Sometimes you can hear like a type of dialect or like a different tone as when they come through talking, and I find that interesting. Yeah.
No, I do too. Armando, what's the name of that equipment that you like?
Oh, my personal favorite is the Panasonic DR60s. It's just I have a connection to them. So kind of like the episode that you had with Black Smoke. They're like our little brother and sister. But that's what I was saying in the chat that day. It's the more you use your equipment, the more familiar you are with it, and the better it ends up working with you. I wholeheartedly believe that. I tend to use two DR60s at the same time. I have them set up with different settings, and I have them on voice activation. One of them and the other one I leave alone. And I just like to see if I'm able to get similar responses at the same questions. That kind of gives it more validity to me. But I also like using the recorders in conjunction to when she does use the dowsing rods, when she does use her pendulum. I kind of like seeing if I'm able to get EVPs as she's getting those yes and no questions and
It's
things like
more
that.
confirmation of evidence because you're all getting something at the same time. Then it's more
course.
proof to me anyway, because she's got
Yes.
something going on and you are too. And then it's really hard to debunk that, actually.
Of course, the more evidence that you get with multiple pieces of equipment, I believe that you wholeheartedly are getting your evidence.
Yes, I agree. Totally. I have to check
I
out
think
that.
it is cool with that, with the yes or no, and then just to see the dowsing rods doing the same, at the same time.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
I remember the first time we experienced the dowsing rod, we were on a random investigation just as women went away for a weekend, and my daughter was with me, and the team that we were working with that was there, she pulled out the dowsing rods, and I was hooked. After that, I was hooked because we were connecting with a little girl in the old building, and she had my daughter holding them, and my daughter was sitting there going, she was just astounded that this thing was moving, and she was just holding them doing nothing. And then I was hooked. I got to get my own pair, so because it connects to you. It's
Exactly. Yes.
So you guys
we host. I'm
sorry?
sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say we host. That's okay. We host with War Party Paranormal. We host events at different locations here in South Florida. And at first, when I first got my rods, I would bring them, and then people were like, "Oh, I want to use them and stuff." But now I'm like, no. So I have to get a pair to share out for like the guests and stuff, because
yeah,
I almost felt like I betrayed my rods.
yeah. I can see that. I can see that.
I won't even use them. The most I'll do is like pass them to her. Like, here you go.
Yeah, no. I don't let nobody touch them now.
Good boy. You guys went to the Broward's Correctional Institution, and Chris is going to put up a photograph for the people that are listening in, and we're going to give picture credit to Wikipedia because that's where I got the picture. But it was a correctional facility in the former Country Estates CDP and in Southwest Ranches, Florida, operated by the Florida Department of Corrections. It opened in 1977 to house the male inmate population, but in all its history has only had female inmates, and it housed female death row inmates until 2003. It had such notable inmates as Judy Bonanno and Aileen Warnos. It was officially closed when the cost to maintain the inmates and the proximity to other prisons impacted the community, and it shut its doors in 2012. Is this location open to the public now?
It is just an empty lot.
Yeah, it's an empty lot.
So if you want to drive there,
we do need to give props to our brother Joe. He's on the chat right now.
I just saw that.
He's the one that got us there. And I do need to say hello to good friends of ours, Sean and James as well. Thank you for the love and support.
Oh, Scary Cat Paranormal. Hey, he's a buddy of mine. I just saw the comments. Nice to see you all. Hi, Joe. And thanks for tuning in and cross the line paranormal. I see that now. I just clicked on it to see who's tuning in.
Joe, he's the team leader. Well, one of the team leaders in War Party Paranormal. So we actually owe him for taking us to this location, a phenomenal location that we ended up investigating at, and one
why did you want to go there? What was the reason? Had you heard anything?
Anytime there's a jail or something, I want to investigate it. Yeah. But that to me, I guess that would be the first time I would say that I have investigated what used to be a former prison or a jail facility, and it's an empty lot. Like, you wouldn't think. All you see is just like a dirt road, and the amount of shadow figures that we've seen there is just crazy, and disembodied voices. Mm-hmm. It's just that energy is stuck on that ground.
Do you think you connected with any of the inmates that were there specifically?
We sure did.
I think we did, and also former correctional officers.
Yeah, we got some COs, and I wish we would have gotten the whole thing, but one of the female inmates that we were speaking to through our devices, we were able to get partially their inmate number.
Inmate number. I try to look it up.
Really?
We
Oh,
tried to
that's
look it up, but we didn't have sufficient numbers.
Yeah, we were missing like 1 or 2 numbers short.
That's cool. That to me is really cool when you get stuff like that. I've known we've gone on investigations before where we've gotten names, and now the power of modern technology with your cell phones, you can just go in and Google and see if there was a person in history that was at that location. When you get a hit, it's like, oh my gosh, I think this is that person. And I actually had one investigation that came full circle because we went to the cemetery and actually ended up being led to his grave. Feathers. They were dropping feathers on the ground, and we looked up, and there it was. It was like, oh my God, is this really happening? So when stuff like that happens, it's pretty awesome, you know?
Yeah, that is. What color were the feathers?
I was just about to ask her.
What color were the feathers?
They were, oh gosh, honestly, I'm trying to remember. I think they were black with white on them. But I get a lot of feathers. I receive a lot of feathers.
Me too.
I'm always thanking the universe, and I save them. I have a box full of them because I really feel like they're sent to me. And in that moment, it was pretty cool because I was just really a tag along with the other team member, and she found the first feather, and I said to her, because she had Native American background. And I said to her, "Oh, that's we got to follow these feathers because there's got to be a reason why it's there." And it just, because I always receive and accept it. To me, it's a sign, and it's not just feathers, other things. But in that moment, it was these feathers, and I said to her, "It's not random. We're not finding that feather just randomly. It's being sent there for us, and we need to receive it and accept it and see where it takes us." And it really led to that find, which was pretty cool. So.
Wow. I'm a big person who, like, I get signs like that. Feathers are a big thing for me too. So that's why I was interested in knowing the color for them. Yeah, I get crazy signs.
So why did you ask me the color? That's why I'm curious, because this is something new.
Because I don't know. For some reason I was thinking you were gonna say black, and you kind of said black and white. Right. I know that for like my guide themselves, they told me, and I verified, I get white feathers strictly from them, and then I've gotten like black. Yeah, I have gotten black, and as a sign of protection, or I would say it's something like that. Like I was wondering like what that person would send you as a feather, like what color.
Right. Yeah. I never thought about that. I'll have to pay more attention to that. For me, it's just been the feather. The receipt of the feather.
Look up the colors.
I've got feathers from all kinds. In New Jersey, we have a lot of hawks and falcons. So, you know, I tend to think that those are the ones that I get the most. But I've gotten other ones that I felt were from like bluebirds and doves. And doves are a big deal for me. But birds in general have always been a sign for me, and just getting those feathers. And my kid will point them out a lot too. She go, "Oh, there's a feather." I'm like, "Oh, thank the universe, because it was sent for you. You're the one who found it." And I just knew that was significant, you know.
I think, and like what you said, like when you acknowledge it, which is what I've told other people, when you acknowledge it, you will start to see it more. Like you get sent more. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Yep. Well, you guys, I know I keep on getting off on a tangent with you, but I like that. So because we start talking about other things that people find interesting. You brought a clip with you from Broward's. And so before Chris puts it up, want to tell us what we're going to watch and what's going on?
So when we do investigations, I like to, especially if I feel like I'm getting a lot of activity or just to try it out, I ask spirit to show themselves on camera, and I will take like a series of photos. And since that night we were getting a lot of shadow figures and in that location in general, I said, heck, why not try it? Try to take a photo and, you know, stay in the same spot like I do and take a series of pictures. And they said hi.
Yeah, sure did.
They said hi. Chris, that's the Broward's one that I sent to you in the email, because we had two from the jail, and the Broward's was. He's going to put that on for us now. Awesome. I'm excited. What happened?
It's one thing. Oh no, yeah, it was just visual.
Wait, what?
Oh, it was just visual.
It was just visual.
It was a series of photos, but it should, yeah.
Wait, all right. It's one thing to take our word for it to see the shadow
if you
figures.
want, show it again, and maybe I'll talk to them.
Yeah. Chris, can you allow for her to speak while you're playing with it? Maybe he can do that.
I can do that.
All right, cool. So you can explain it while he's showing it. How's that?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
All right. So, yeah, I'm already like taking pictures in the same spot, but right there, if you can pause it, you see like a figure to your left. I have them highlighted. Do you see that?
Oh yeah, I see it. Yep.
Yeah. It almost looks like they have like their hand like this, and like it's really hard to see here. But if you're seeing the picture in person, you can see the pants, like the legs, the two legs, and there's one off to the left of him, like that one was outlined also, and you see like this whole like the bust area.
Very cool.
So, yeah, and they like manifested in the series of the photos.
So you're like me. You took a bunch of different pictures because sometimes something will pop up in one that doesn't pop in another. And
yeah,
I mean, it's painstaking effort. You take it home and you got to sit there and you got to look through all these pictures. But when you actually find something, it's like an aha moment, right?
Oh, when I saw that, I was like, look at, I didn't even tell him anything. I said, look at this. And he was like, oh, hell no. And I was like, okay, so you see it, you know?
That was her validation. I saw it without her highlighting or zooming in. I'm like,
I didn't do anything. As soon as I was looking, I was like, oh my God.
And it goes to show you don't need it to be pitch black to be able to see shadow figures. Like most people have that misconception. As you can tell, the sun is setting, so you can see that there's light out.
Like twilight.
And boom, you see shadow figures there. And that's what I love.
All the time.
That's one thing that I love. It's one thing to take our word for the fact that we saw the shadow figures, and then it's another thing, you know, Jenny's bright idea of, hey, let me just start snapping and see what I get.
Yeah.
And she'll ask them, hey, if you stand here and I take a picture, will you please come out for the picture? And it's worked.
I've been doing that for quite some time, since probably before actually being official on any team. And I just try it to see what happens. I feel like I get, you know, if you ask, I mean, why not, you know?
Absolutely. And then when you get that feeling, like, especially if there's a bunch of you and somebody says, I'm feeling cold, or I feel something here, that's like the best time to take out the camera and just start snapping pictures, because something's going on and you never know what you're going to end up with when you finish going through the pictures later on.
And in this location, like right where they're at, to the side of that dirt road, that path, that's where you see them. You see them like there, and then you see them like run across. Like you literally
Joe was saying.
Joe
Torino was saying we were watching them cross the road over and over the first time that he went there.
Insane.
Yeah.
So if you look at that picture right there, so the red light is our REM pod. The first time that we were there was just me, Joe, and Jenny, and more like a little behind of where that REM pod was the first time we ever saw a shadow figure that was there, and it looked like it was crouching down, like looking at us, and it felt like menacing.
It was crouching down, and I thought I saw it with my eyes, and at that time, and I don't know. I remember saying something, and then something touched my elbow. Then
okay,
all three of us saw it. We were just in shock.
Fairy Incognito 8 made a point. She said that she does think that they did manifest at your request because they felt safe enough to do so. They trusted you. And you know what? Like Cross the Line Paranormal is saying, being respectful is always a thing that pays off, because you're not antagonizing them. You're letting them know that you want to acknowledge them and you're showing them that respect. And you'd be surprised how much stuff you can get just by being respectful to them. They were human in life. They're human in death too. So
yeah, absolutely.
It's absolutely true. That's a model that we obviously go by. Our friends that we go by, we've investigated with Sean, James, Across the Line Paranormal. We've investigated with him, and we had that mutual understanding that that's how we do, and that's how he does it as well. So I just believe that that's the best route to go. Kill them with kindness, and they will come out. There's a spirit, a famous spirit from one of the more well-known locations here in South Florida. Is called the Riddle House. Ghost Adventures has actually done an investigation at that house. It would be season 1, episode 4. And the approach that they took is way different from the approach that we take. And I can tell you that we garner way better results in being respectful and treating them, as they were humans once upon a time,
Exactly.
And we get great evidence due to that.
Good people doing good investigating. That's the way it's done.
Thank you.
You guys went to the Hamilton County Jail, and Chris is going to put the picture up from that one. Give picture credit to the Natural North Florida website, because that's where I took it from. I actually love the whole facade of this building. They call it Romanesque Revival. Hamilton County Jail in Jasper, Florida is an old historic building added to the National Register of Historic Places in 1983. Today, it serves as a museum. It was erected in 1893, and it was considered to be a fireproof brick, concrete, steel structure, home to the sheriff and his family. But it was both a place where babies were born and lives were taken by hanging, which is definitely the opposite to one another. Their families having babies, and then they use it for a hanging site. Yeah. So I can understand why you would want to go there and investigate. What happened when you guys were there?
Oh, so here we actually have to thank little bro, little sis, Stephen Mella, Black Smoke Paranormal. We came with them to investigate here. And I would say this was our first road trip together, the 4 of us. Phenomenal location. Yeah. We understand why the folks from up north, they love it. It's a far drive from us. Literally, you're about 20 miles from the Florida-Georgia line.
Oh, okay.
And mind you, we're almost at the most southern part of the main state of Florida. Obviously, the Keys are the most southern point, but of the actual, mainland, we are towards the very bottom. We've heard a lot of good things about this location, and it did not disappoint whatsoever.
Yeah, there's a lot of disembodied. We heard it's known to hear whistles, even though we had one, but then I thought I had another one, but we didn't. It was somebody else. Yeah. And there's just in the women's corridor, I don't know why it feels like so negative, like such a like a bad vibe. I feel like I was actually more comfortable upstairs, and that was like the men's.
Really?
Weirdly enough. And I've talked to many people, and they say that the women's is just, I don't know what it is, what the negativity is there. And I was thinking it was like
women thing. It could just be a women thing. You know how women are that way.
Yeah, I don't know. I was thinking there was like an old hag type of thing going on there too. Like
really?
Yeah. I did not leave that place without like cleansing everything I had. I was like,
I think Across the Line Paranormal said they were scratched at that one. I think that's what they were talking about at that particular location.
Sounds about right. That sounds about right. That location has, they've done a lot of hangings there. It's just awesome. Oh, and what outside. She was saying in the outside, correct. Some of the EVPs that we were getting, I was getting cat calling. Like the male prisoners were catcalling Jenny and Mella. So
like the girls.
I can't wait to go back. I can't wait to go back.
Oh, and there's in the second floor where you would see that the hanging tower. There, where's the sheriff's quarters? There's family lived up there, and whatever's up in that bedroom, it feels totally different from the rest of the jail. It was more like I felt like there was like child like spirits there. Like they would hide. Like as soon as they hear us coming upstairs, because we had equipment that would sound off or light, just like the rope light. What am I saying?
Tripwire.
The tripwire or REM pods. And then as soon as we would hear it, we'll kind of like tiptoe up there to see it, and you can see it just go. And it was like they were hide. So we had cameras up there, and you would see like, you know, I know a lot of people are like debunk orbs, but these were like always come right from under the bed, come out, like hang out. And then like if they would hear movement, because I was listening to the audio, they would just kind of like whisper back. And it was always the same thing. And it's just like, okay, it's very interesting.
Yeah, one of those was like a
all
bright
about orbs. I know there's this huge debate on orbs, but I'm an orb girl. I mean, I will be the first one to say I'm going to try and debunk something before I believe it, but orbs are real, and I don't care what anybody says.
Yeah.
So I've just seen way too many of them to say that they're not something. You know what I mean? So
the way they were acting in that bedroom alone, it was very weird. You know, it's not like you can tell it wasn't really like dust. It was very clean until it is something like trying to walk upstairs, or we had like a nerve center, and you can tell they would just like hide. It was weird. It was very weird.
Wow. So is that in one of the clips that you brought, or what's going on in the clips that you brought?
No, so two clips. One of them was, so we did an EVP session, and Armando asked for the sheriff's name at the time of whoever was responding to us there.
Yep.
And they said they said the man's last name.
Yep.
And of a good friend of ours who owns Gilchrist County Jail sent us a list of all the sheriffs there,
and one of the names
immediately, and it was
Wow, that's great.
Yeah, you're gonna.
That was an awesome validation. Yeah,
Steve just joined in right on time, brother.
Steve loves this clip. He was blown away. We were all blown away by this answer.
This is one of the first times, like I was saying, we investigated together. Not the first time, but one of the first times. And this was probably one of our favorite investigations that we've ever done as the four of us.
Yeah.
As a group, yeah. And what happens in the other clip?
So in the other clip, which that person comes out multiple times, but I only sent like one. There was a disembodied voice that kept being recorded while we were talking, and it was to me, it seemed like this person was just like joining in on our conversation. And I started to notice that in that clip, because we were talking about like, man, that's so weird. Like the person's talking, we kept getting the name like Robert.
Yeah.
In that one clip, it says like, oh, that's goo. Like if.
Oh.
What is it? I don't know.
Kelly?
Yeah.
Kelly.
Was the sheriff? Let me see. And it said.
It doesn't.
No.
He just looked it up right now.
Shut the. 1930.
Let me see. And what is it? Play it.
Kind of rewinded it, but it's okay.
That's good. I like that. And you could play the other one for us, Chris.
See if the answer is like that.
We're going to try to communicate with you through a recording. You want to try that? All right, we're going to do an EVP session. Yo, that's like a young guy. What's up? No, like the way it answers. Like almost not like it's not even old. Like almost not like it's not even old. Maybe it could be somebody from this area.
So, this jail closed down in 1984. So.
Yeah. So basically, if you were listening closely, you heard
That was goo. I don't
Yeah.
know. I mean, that's I got it. That's how I understand it. That I thought that was good, and then the more I kept hearing it, was that was goo. Like I think that was the guy's nickname.
Right.
Nickname.
Like
No.
acknowledging. I think what it was two spirits
Yeah.
that were there, and they were conversing with each other as an who was talking. That was Goo.
Because we kept getting. I was asking about Robert, and Robert had talked to us Friday night and Saturday.
Right.
Same tone of voice and everything in the spirit box. So I asked him for the next day to say, "Hey, Robert, you here with us?" And sure enough, he ended up coming through. Like he wanted to talk to us.
They love the camaraderie. I noticed that when we're all there hanging out and having conversations, and if we say something funny and we laugh, we tend to get a lot of shit happen because they just love to be a part of what's going on. And it's almost like they feel like they're alive again. I mean, it sounds weird to say that, but they do like to interact in that respect. And I feel like we get a lot of stuff happening more when we're just acting normal and doing our thing, acknowledging them, making them feel like they're part of the group, so to speak.
Yeah.
I don't know if you agree or not, but
no, that's very.
Definitely.
I would think so. Yeah, because I was talking about him like, wow, that's so weird because it just sounds like a younger person like answering us like if they know us, you know.
Yeah.
While we were there doing that session, even throughout the whole weekend, like you said, there was a woman that had she gave birth there, and I'm not sure, I forget until what time. I don't know how old the child was, but we kept hearing also like little kids. I can't remember if it was a girl or a boy. Maybe Steve.
Well,
can tell us.
Mela saw a boy in
That's right, and then
staircase.
the family too.
Mm-hmm.
We kept hearing child voices, which creeped me out because it's a jail and it was towards like the back area, which is past that kitchen, and that's the jail part, not really where the family was at. So I don't know if it's something mimicking a child there or an actual child, but I didn't like that that much.
Well, like I said, you're getting like the best of both worlds. You're getting that sheriff and his family, and you're getting the spirits of the inmates. That's pretty cool. Now, I know, Armando, you said that this was probably one of your favorite investigations. Is it yours too, Jen, or do you have another that?
I really, really like that place. Like I'm dying to go back there. We had a favorite location that doesn't exist anymore because they tore it down. And now what's sitting on top of that is a cement factory. But that was also a prison, an abandoned prison that was called Belle Glades Correctional Facility. And that used to be our our favorite place, I would say.
Yeah.
And you said they tore it down and they put a cement thingy up. I'm always curious when stuff like that happens, if what's there now starts experiencing stuff, because I've known that when things get torn down and something else goes up, they start having shit happening and they can't explain why it is, but it's because they've built themselves on the property of something that was there. That's not going to go away because they think it's still the way it was when they were alive. So,
when we were investigating there with as our War Party teammates, we would call the police officers and they would send someone there just to be able to make sure that we were safe the whole night. And they would know that we would be respectful with the location and nothing wrong would ever happen when we were there. But unfortunately, some vandals went there and multiple times, and they burnt down.
Yeah, they're the ones that ruined it.
They burnt down the church, that church was special to me because it was kind of like my full circle moment. The first time that I felt a cold spot again as a paranormal investigator at this point was in the church at the Belle Glade Correctional Facility, and it was special to me because I was finally able to answer the question of what happened to me that night when I was playing PlayStation. Boom, I was experiencing spirit, and the cold spot, I felt it again just like that night playing PlayStation. So even though that place no longer exists due to the vandals, It'll always be a special place in my memory because of that. I answered that question, and it, as a paranormal investigators, we always seem to have more questions than answers. But it's cool when we're finally able to answer some of the questions that we have. Yeah.
Moment.
It was kind of like, oh, that's what I experienced that night, you know?
Right. So what's on your agenda for the months ahead? What are you guys planning on doing? Where are you going?
So next month, actually, we are going to St. Augustine, and we're going to be investigating the Clay County Jail with Black Smoke. So Stephen Meta and a couple other new members from War Party are going to be joining us. Very excited for that because I haven't been to St. Augustine since I was a little girl. So I'm going back now as what I do. I'm kind of interested in seeing how that turns out. And he's never been. So I'm excited for him.
Oh, yeah. I'm in North Carolina. As I mentioned to you, I was in New Jersey, and I still got the team back in New Jersey, and I will be going back to Jersey because I have a following there because of my books. But now that I'm in North Carolina, I put it out there. I'm like, there are any teams here near Raleigh? And there doesn't seem to be any, but all these people are like, but I want to be a part of a team. Yeah. So I might have to end up starting one up in this area because it's just, when you just do stuff, you just do stuff. So, I might end up having a North Carolina.
That's cool. Yeah.
And bringing the team from New Jersey. And I've done stuff with Sporty Cat Paranormal. I love doing things with other teams too. Tower Paranormal. I love it because it's a nice collaboration, being with other paranormals and seeing how they do things and just collaborating. So
and just hanging out and meeting. We plan to go to Gettysburg Bash. So there's a lot of people I look forward to meeting too.
Sean is definitely one of them.
Yeah, I told him he better go out there.
You know, it's funny.
He's a good guy. I love him.
We didn't investigate with Sean, but he actually met up with our brother Joe and Mike, that's also in War Party Paranormal, and it was cool because I was watching their investigation, and Joe showing me the video, and I'm like, wait, pause and rewind again. So they rewound, and it's Sean and Joe and Mike, and they're walking through a corridor, and they never noticed. But there was a shadow figure that was in a hallway, and it like phased from the floor and it went up to the ceiling. They never even knew that was there, and I had just happened to see it. And I guess since I had like fresh eyes at that point in time,
that's true too. When you see something over and over again, you kind of like miss it, you know.
Yeah. So Sean, it was kind of like I investigated with them, but I can't wait to actually do it. Yeah. But Sean, exactly. It's that para-unity, it's that brotherhood. And we don't like the drama. We just like to meet new people, investigate with them, and see if we can learn something off of each other, and just building that relationship.
That's what I've been saying for years. It's about learning from each other and get away from all this paranormal drama, because there is paranormal drama out there. I've experienced it, and it's terrible. Terrible. You just want to be a part of a group with each other and learn from each other and help these spirits get acknowledged, and that's just what it's all about. I'm so glad to hear you say that. I really am.
It's cool because it's looking at it from somebody else's perspective, and maybe we've been doing something one way, but it could be done a different way. And you get to seeing your peers at work,
try it out.
And trying it out, and maybe they give you an idea, or they inspire an idea. Like we were doing an investigation at Casadega, and we were doing a spirit box session, and an investigator from over there was telling us, oh, why don't you record it with the recorder, and that way you can manipulate the speeds. So that's what we were doing, and we ended up catching more things than we ever did.
And then now we do that,
and now we use that.
Now we do that,
So that's good.
Yeah, we definitely do that, and it's just learning off of each other. Why not?
Absolutely.
We're trying to find the same answers. So,
Exactly. Yeah. Well, thank you for doing what you do. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Could you please tell everybody that's tuning in how they can find you and follow you?
So on all socials, YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram, it's 305 Paranormal. And here you go. Kind of looks like that. And yeah, so we're looking forward to Clay County, then Gettysburg Bash.
Yes.
And in between, we try to hang out during the weekends if there's like free time with no events, because we do host events at Old Davy Schoolhouse for the locals. That's in Fort Lauderdale, West Palm Beach. We do the Riddle House location, which is Yesteryear Village. And we do Gold Coast, which is in South Florida.
That's probably our favorite
that's close to us.
Down here in Miami, the Gold Coast Railroad Museum. Just a lot of history there.
Yeah.
We've done overnight investigations there that have been amazing. So I highly recommend folks to check that place out too. And we started a little venture this year. We do a weekly show on YouTube. You can find it on the 305 Paranormal YouTube page. We actually do a show called Spooked Coast to Coast. It's us with our co-host Joy and Joey from JJ Paranormal, and it's kind of that para-unity thing that we were just talking about. Speaking with them since they live in California and kind of comparing experiences. Being us from Miami, Florida, and them from California, seeing how the experiences are similar or different. And it's actually funny that we were speaking about the feathers, because this past Sunday's episode,
we just had an episode
was about signs and synchronicities, and we were talking about feathers and things like that. So that's cool. So if you guys want to check us out, Coast to Coast,
I'll have to check out
that. And then the only other thing I have to plug is I have my own page on Instagram. It's called Mr.305 Paranormal. You can find me there, and I do post a lot of paranormal things, but then it's some of the other things that make me. So I love my local sports teams. I love anime, so I kind of talk about things like that. I have a
Dolphins cup right here.
That's the team that's going to win it all next year, guys. And
yeah, right.
No, I've been spoiled by my Miami Heat, thank God, and my Florida Panthers are doing amazing. I would just love, my childhood dreams to see the Dolphins win it all. So that would be great.
Bring back Marino.
That
would have been your childhood dream right there.
That's where you guys can find us. And I just want to say, Eleanor, thank you very much for having us.
Thank you so much.
We appreciate it.
And thank you, Chris.
Fun.
Thank you, Chris,
so much
for
appreciate it.
showing our evidence.
Yeah.
You can catch us, like she was saying, more of our evidence on IG and on YouTube.
That's it.
That's all, folks. Okay.
Oh, and from time to time we are on a Spanish radio show, or television show. It's called Primer Impacto.
The War Party group.
War Party group. You can find us exciting. There. We do investigations with them, and we post it on our YouTube page as well. We actually did one of the best ones that we did was regarding seeing if you can capture the same evidence that you would using an SLS and an XLS versus the Tesla Model S.
You know how, I don't know, did you ever hear about like people saying that Teslas were picking up spirits?
Yeah.
So we tested that out. That was about like 2 years ago. So.
And it's true.
It's true.
It lines up.
It's interesting. Yeah. I have a playlist on the 305 YouTube. You can run through them. You'll find it there.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Check it out, guys.
All right. Thanks again. You guys have a great night.
Thank you. You too.
And thank you, Techie Chris. We couldn't do it without you. If you all like listening to this week's episode and you're into all things paranormal, check out my other show, Eleanor Wagner's Strange and Scary World podcast, out of the Paranormal UK Radio Network, which is available wherever you get your podcasts. You can watch and listen to the uncut version directly on my Eleanor Wagner YouTube channel. If any of you are interested in reading any of my books, you can find them on Amazon, but you can get signed copies directly through me at authoreleanorwagner@gmail.com. I write about the history of the town and the location, and the paranormal story is added to the mix, and I finish it all off with photos and evidence. I'm also excited to share that I have t-shirts available from both my Creepin It Reel podcast and Strange and Scary World podcast. And if you're interested in getting them, you can email me at authoreleanorwagner@gmail.com. Lastly, viewers, tune in on Thursday, February 29th at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, when the East Coast Spirit Chasers join me for some ghostly gab. Thank you to everybody who tuned in today and gave their comments in the comment line. And I appreciate you all. Have a good night.
I hope you've enjoyed this little journey down my own personal nightmare alley. If you're one of those people who experiences the paranormal and has stories of your own you've been filing away over the years, I want to hear about them. And if you're a part of a paranormal investigative team, even better. I'd love to have you on my show. Got a questionable photo? Send it in. Would love to have an open discussion here amongst the professionals. Reach out to me at authoreleanorwagner@gmail.com. Enjoy our soundtrack music, Headless Horseman by Alexander Nakarada, promoted by freestockmusic.com. And remember, no ghost story is better than a real-life ghost story. Until we meet again, make sure you're creeping it real.